to the Trauma Room My Life podcast series based on the book by Salute Kinnemer and the album by Rogelio Capone. I am this series host, TenTillDeath, also known as Rogelio Capone. In this podcast, we'll be covering topics regarding mental health and psychology, topics such as how people become abusers, how addictions form, and how trauma ruins populations, and so much more. If understanding how people work or how one person's pain can cause a domino effect on others interests you, then you've come to the right place. Without further ado, let's get into our show. Viewer discretion is advised. So, on today's episode, there's not going to be anything specific that we're going to be discussing, really, but we have our special guest. Okay, I'm stuttering here. We have our special guest host, Armavation, or how do you want to go by? How do you want to go by?
You could, hello everybody, first of all. And you could go, I mean, it depends. You could say Arm the artist, or Armavation's up to the individual.
Oh, nice. Oh, nice. See, look, you're on top of it already. For y'all that don't know, Arma over here, she's done her own podcasting stuff, so she's on top. She knows this stuff better than me.
Oh, well, I mean, everyone's just learning, it's really just experience. Everyone gets better with time. I mean, everyone's different, so.
Well, yeah, of course. So, if you don't mind, do you mind, introducing yourself to everybody, giving a brief summary about yourself and, what you do, if you don't mind?
Oh, yes. So, like Rogelio said, TenTillDeath, I'm Arma. I'm also known as Arm the artist. And that name came from me seeing myself as an artist and a creator, because that's what I love to do. So, I got passionate about different forms of art, from starting off in high school and stuff, because I was around a lot of other, classmates or students who were into drawing, friends who were into drawing, and, a lot of people who are into poetry, writing, recording music, photography, and things such as that. And then that kind of piqued my interest, because I was always into being creative. I remember being a kid and making paper characters. So I'll have pieces of paper, and I would draw the front and back of my own characters, and I would play with them like they're my own toys when I was younger. And so I always knew I liked being creative. And so YouTube always piqued my interest. At first, I thought YouTube was just for educational purposes, because in school we only use YouTube for educational stuff or movies where we have to write down what we learned from the movie. And so once I started I just started researching into YouTube more, and I started seeing a lot of gamers and stuff, just random YouTubers that are like you and me in their bedroom, just reacting to stuff, playing different things. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. I didn't know there's this side to YouTube. And so that kind of piqued my interest, just seeing some of the YouTubers I started watching, growing up with gaming and all that in high school. And I was like, man, one day I want to do that, because now I'm learning that you're able to be creative and also monetize your creations. And so it started off with me doing a gaming channel, because I was always a gamer at heart, due to one of my parents being into gaming a lot. And I was introduced to gaming for a very, very young age. I started playing games, educational games, on my own computer at 3 years old. And it just started from there. And so I started my gaming channel on YouTube because I wanted to be a part of the gaming community and, get into talking about different games, favorite characters, sharing my reactions to different games as I played through them. And then after that, I kind of, I was able to collaborate with other gamers as well. But over time, things started to become stale to me. And it was mostly because I was like, okay, I'm playing games and I'm it's fun and stuff, but it started to get tiring and it made me more anxious because it's like
Mm.
now it's not as fun because before I was recording and uploading stuff to YouTube, I was just playing games for fun whenever I want, whatever time there's no audience, that can critique or just watch what I'm playing or how I'm playing it. And I was like, man, I kind of missed that. I kind of miss just actually like playing games for the fun of it on my own and stuff. Um, and I was like, how do I find myself within gaming when there's so many gamers that are playing the same game? I was like, I want to go more on the creative side. But when I had my gaming channel, I started to be like, how can I be different from other gaming channels? I was like, well, I'll start doing motivational content for gamers. So, how to be more positive as a gamer, like how to have a better mindset and
Yeah.
see gaming as an art, stuff like that.
Mm.
And I was like, man, well, I was doing these motivational videos. Why don't I make a motivational channel? And that's where Armavation was born. And I was like, well, I mean, I could just have this whole motivational channel because that's what I love to do. I just like to, learn more, help guide other people to towards being on a better pathway. And I was like, I'm gonna start off with motivational as a motivational channel. Then as the time went on and on, I was like, well, I really want to hear, I really would like to collab with more people and for other people to share their perspectives on different motivational topics. And that included like mental health and psychology and all of that. So my channel ended up slowly kind of transitioned from motivational to more educational.
Mm.
And a lot of people, I know, it seems that way for now. A lot of people see it as a podcast, but I see it more as an educational channel and just more of a conversational channel because, I have bigger plans with this channel, education channel in the future.
Mm.
And I'm kind of limited to certain things. That's why I kind of do things in a more like audio podcasting format. But
That makes
yeah,
sense.
and I always been like interested in learning from others, and I always like to ask questions. I always like to think about the what ifs. And so it started with me just reaching out to people like, hey, you want to talk about something that, piques your interest or something that some certain topics that you feel like other people should know about or can be more educated on. And, some people be like, yeah, I want to talk about this or that. Some people don't know what they want to talk about. So I have to kind of, like pivot a little bit and be like, okay, well, we could talk about this person, cause I do my research, of course, for
Yeah.
every guest, I do my research and, just in case they may not know exactly what they want to speak on, I could be like, okay, we could talk about this cause this person does this or that. And, yeah, and I mean, my main goal, I want people to see me as more of a creator, a person who just likes to create things, whether it's creating conversations, creating tangible things, physical things, or just creating, I don't know, creating a new perspective for people in this world in a way,
Mm.
So I don't know. I just like to create. That's all.
Well, see, damn, like that's a lot more. Like, see, a lot of people that are listening, they don't know that me and Arma, we go back to 2022, right?
Yep.
And so, like, a lot of the stuff she's saying here, it's a lot more stuff than that I just learned just now. So that is interesting, and I'm glad you brought up a lot of this new information because I
Mm-hmm.
was wondering, you're talking about all these different creative outlets, like, starting to play games
Mm-hmm.
for YouTube, and starting YouTube. And then the concept of making it like a whole educational channel, and I know what you mean by the podcasting thing.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
So I have a question, like, so like, how is like working on YouTube, or like the early, like, trying to think, I'm trying to find a good way to word this. How is like any of your experience on YouTube or using your creative outlets? How has it like affected you and your mental health?
That's a great question. Well, to be honest with you, with my educational channel, is really helped me. It's really helped my mental health in a way where I'm learning more about others, so I don't feel as isolated.
Mm-hmm.
And by me talking to other people, and other people expressing things they went through and stuff, I'm like, man, well, I didn't know you went through that. Like, I'm thinking about my own issues and stuff, but like me talking to this person, you know, I'm hearing about what they're going through, and it's like, wow, like, we really are, this whole community, this whole like world is, we're more connected than people may not think we are, but we really are connected, like, globally. And so me talking to being able to collaborate and talk to people on my educational channel, from people from different walks of life, all around the world. It's not just, where I'm at. It's not just one country. It's just people all over the world.
Yeah.
It really inspires me to get out there more and just learn more from others. So it helps my mental health in a way where I don't feel like, I don't know, I don't feel like I'm like suffocating mentally, like, to myself. Like, there's all this knowledge and different resources throughout, what other people know and things they can share about their personal life. It also helps me in a way where um, my initiative to go out to people who aren't really even um, comfortable with speaking out about different things.
Yeah.
But my educational channel, I realize, can sometimes be more of like this hub of people being able to express themselves or get things off of their chest. Um, and sometimes people at the end of our conversation, they will say like, "Oh, this really helped," or "I really liked your questions. It really made me think," or like, "I feel better like talking about these things and stuff like that." And it's like, wow, I really actually, for me, taking the initiative to actually say, "Hey, you're free to be vulnerable and talk about what you like or things you want to educate other people on." For me to have that resource for them to be able to come on and open up, and them feel good about expressing themselves,
Yeah.
it makes me feel like, wow, I really did something there. It has some sort of effect on the person. So yeah.
Well, that is a good response because, like, even what you were just saying just now, how it makes you feel like you've had an effect on someone or the person. For
Mm-hmm.
those, that are listening, way back in 2022, I've talked about it on her podcast, but I'll just give a brief summary.
Mm-hmm.
Where I was going through a breakup with my ex fiance at the time. And, at the time, I wasn't in the best mental condition. And I remember what Arma was telling me at the time. And this advice stuck with me through my whole mental health journey. It was more so like, I can't remember the exact words, but I'll just kind of like paraphrase it to like what Arma was telling me before. She said something like, take things like one day at a time. If today you lay on the couch and eat a potato chip, tomorrow, get up off the couch and walk around the front room, or something along those lines. But one day at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Don't exhaust yourself.
it was like, I think I said something like, you may be eating chips on the couch, but make the initiative the next day to maybe eat something healthy, or eat like a salad while on the couch or something like
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
that.
But see, like, that advice stuck with me throughout my whole mental health journey. And even, when I was going through therapy, I always remembered what Arma said right there. And, I actually did apply it to my life, and it did help out a lot. It did
Oh
help out.
wow. Well, hearing you say that really, like, is really heartwarming, because, like, sometimes I just say these things, but I don't always expect people to like literally take it to heart and like
Oh,
consider
yeah.
it,
Mhm.
because sometimes we know those people that we give advice to, the hard heads out there in the world that don't listen. You try to give them advice and stuff, but they don't listen. Like, man, well, it's all up to the hands of the universe to teach you that lesson. Like, I can't do it, but so much longer. So yeah. So thanks for that.
Hey, no problem. No problem. So I do have another question.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there anything that you've learned over the years? Because I remember what you were saying about when you were playing games and all of that stuff for
Mm-hmm.
YouTube. So, this might, I guess you could say this might apply to this, but like, has there, ever been anything over the years, like when you were playing those games?
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, I'll guess I'm wording this wrong, but is there anything that you've learned over the years that you thought was healthy for you, but kind of realized it was hurting you or stressing you out internally?
Oh yeah, just the idea of seeing your favorite YouTubers and wanting to be in the same boat, such as that, thinking that like, oh, all I gotta do, try to figure out post this many videos to get, hopefully this amount of views at this certain time, and I could get the attention, the
Yeah,
clicks and all that extra stuff, and I was doing these gaming videos thinking like, okay, well, if I have this cool reaction to this or that, even though I was still like being myself while playing a game, it's still like in a weird way, it's still like you kind of know there's still like the limelight is still on you because you're editing, you're publishing it to your channel, someone out there is going to see it.
yeah,
And so at the time I felt it was good. It was good to like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have all these, if I keep this up, I'll have views and stuff. And I'll have a community of people who want to come and see me play through the games and stuff. And that's the attitude I had at the beginning, of course, especially because like, I was younger and stuff too. And I just thought that was the best thing because I thought that having a successful gaming channel was about, having the best quality and getting all the views and likes and stuff and, learning CEO, I'm sorry, SEO
yeah.
and
Search
all,
engine. Yeah.
hmm yeah, and learning all that different stuff. I felt like I could be like some of my favorite YouTubers and get that play button and, get invited to stuff, get sponsorships and
Woohoo!
all that stuff.
Mhm.
And that wasn't the reality, it's actually taxing. It's a lot. You got to put a lot of energy into it. You have to have the finances to buy the games you want to play.
Yeah,
And you also have to, you know, you have to know your target audience, and sometimes that's difficult to know your target audience if you're coming out here like super passionate and you just like, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna dip into this and that and this, and it's like you really don't know what you want. So, you know, to answer your question, it's like I thought what was healthy was just my perspective at that time of what a successful gaming channel looked like was really not healthy. It was unhealthy. So
Mhm.
so I had to like pivot and change my mindset and stuff, and that's what led me to doing something I was more passionate about, something else. So yeah.
No, see, that's reasonable because what you were saying about how a lot of people don't see it as like, taxing or mentally taxing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll tell people this. So back in like 2022, right? Because I think it's like what my third Instagram account by now, but so back in 2022, but back when I was still Rogelio Capone, still am. So like TenTillDeath is the whole little punk rock stuff, and Rogelio's the rapper stuff these days.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I was doing reaction videos on top of I know I was doing Spotify playlisting on top of live streaming, on
Yeah.
top of the podcast. And then there was like a ton of other things that I was doing, on social media. And I was pushing out content every day, every day. And at the same time, I'd have like 50, more so an exaggeration, but this is how it was like. I had a ton of DMs I had to answer because I was
Mm-hmm.
reacting to all these different artists. People were sending me their music to react to. And, word eventually gets around, right?
Right.
But you're also doing all this content at once with no management team or any of that stuff. And like
Right.
what Irma was saying, you have to have money to buy those games, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Especially the brand new ones that come out and they're like 60,
Mm-hmm.
$70. Yep.
Yep. And that's the thing. Whenever you're running a YouTube channel, it was like me. I was doing so much as one person, but as I was slowly gaining more followers, I realized, hey, I'm gonna need a management team
Mm-hmm.
because I was even like posting like parts of my reaction to my old Instagram and all that stuff at the time, more so like highlights.
Mm-hmm.
but like, I couldn't afford a management team. So at the time, I thought pushing out all this content, it was a slow build. But at the time, I thought, hey man, this is all good. This is healthy. I'm slowly becoming successful. But at the time, I was actually really stressed out because, yeah, I don't know. I was putting out like 4, 5, 6 videos a week on
Wow.
top of TikToks, on top of, the Instagram stuff, on top of responding to messages every day. And for a lot of people, they'll say that's success. And I'll say, yeah, I can see, how it could be somewhat successful. But at the same time, that was mentally taxing for me. So I feel, I understand what Arm is saying by, some people don't see it as taxing because they just see like what's right there on the screen. They're not the ones, making the product and then going out of their way to try to market the product. And that's a whole basket case right there.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of work. Yeah.
Mm.
I don't even know how live streamers do it. Like some of these top tier live streamers, streaming for 8 hours plus. I don't know how they do it.
That's what I'm saying too, because like there was a live streamer I knew. I think, well, he used to do YouTube, but he quit YouTube and he made a whole post about it, which I don't blame him. He quit YouTube because he was going through a mental health journey. But I remember he had about 7,000 subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
He would do 6-hour long streams,
Mm.
and I was like, man, and that was just for a smaller channel. I'm just like, man, that is tough.
Wow.
Then And then I joined one of his streams, and dude, there was times where like some of his fans would, send him hate comments. Like it was just it was just something because this guy has to deal with fans, that support him. Then some of his fans turning on him for 6 hours straight. That's
Right.
got to be taxing. That's got to be mentally draining.
Yeah. Yes. And the other thing too. A lot of people when starting off, they're like, "Oh, I'm just a small creator. I don't have much. I hardly barely have a community or a good group of supporters yet." And it's
Yeah.
like being a small creator, that's the time where you take the opportunity to build and figure out what you want and figure out what works for you, or just it's like a sandbox kind of scenario. And because once your wish come true and you do get, hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands people starting to watch your content, now the bar is raised, and you're kind of like on this timer now. Like everybody's, if you, before as a small creator, maybe you could go a week without posting,
Yeah.
but if you once you grow and you develop your brand, sometimes, I mean, we all know those YouTubers where uh they don't post, or streamers who don't stream for maybe 2 or 3 days, and all their fans like, where are you at? Where'd you go? This, that, and
Oh
this.
yeah.
Did you fall off? Don't fall off. Like, so it's, and people are watching every single thing once you get to that top tier level, like everything.
See, even like as a small creator myself, I understand what that's sort of like because a few weeks ago on my TenTillDeath TikTok, I had one of my TikToks blow up, and I think it's at about 600,000 views now. Just one
Mm-hmm.
TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, it's like what Armo was saying. That bar was raised. I was like, how do I follow up off of this? So I made a few more TikToks to follow up off of that. But then I got a lot of love comments. And then I had a lot of random strange. So this is what was mind-boggling because I wasn't expecting this TikTok to blow up.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a lot of people laughing at the TikTok, thinking, okay, this is funny. Then there was other people that got, mad at this TikTok. It was just a joke, a playful joke of a TikTok. So
Mm-hmm.
then there was people that got mad at the TikTok, started sending hate comments, which, that's typical. I've got a ton, so I'm not concerned. But what was mind-boggling was when I would just see complete strangers come to defend me, strangers I've never met in my life, start to defend me from these hate comments, and then just looking in the comments and it's just a bunch of people arguing with each other on something I made. I'm like, holy crap,
Yeah,
what
I mean,
did I do?
it gets wild. Like it's amazing. It's amazing, like, because it's like this weird illusion. You have the real world, and then you have this online world, and it's like once you hit that threshold, that marked up line, once you pass that line, and you get deep into it, you're hooked, and it takes a lot to sometimes get out of that. You see these words, these comments typed up online, and it's like, well, I don't even know this person, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it is amazing how, like, words are powerful and stuff like that, and that the fact is, in this online world, like, people could type something and stuff, they could be trolling, they don't even know you. I
Oh,
mean, because I heard this quote one time, and, well, this saying one time, and I agree with it. It's like, you truly don't know someone until you're, like, actually around them more often, or you live with them. And it's like, it's amazing how just these comments can affect people in this online world. And it's like, once you turn off your phone and computer and stuff, it's like, okay, you're in another zone. So yeah.
oh yeah, most definitely, most definitely. So we got two upcoming segments for this podcast, Arma, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you a choice. So, which one would you rather do first? Would you rather answer some interview questions first, or would you rather tell one of your own stories that relates to mental health? Pick your poison.
I don't know. I'll take the interview questions. I don't mind the questions.
Oh, got you. Then, okay, let's go for some interview questions first.
Yes.
Can't believe this. Armavation first interview. I called it, y'all. I get to claim dibs, y'all. We're making some history. We are making some history. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? All right, so dun, 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 dun. All right, so like I said earlier,
Mm-hmm.
before the call, for those that don't know, me and Arma, we talked a little bit before we started this. So
Mm-hmm.
if there's any questions you don't want to answer or any personal details you don't want to give out, that's fine. Just let me know, okay?
Yep.
All right, so question one. What are some methods that work for you when it comes to dealing with stress or anxiety?
Music, and music.
Hey, that's a good answer. I can do it. Hey, literally, the entirety of 2023 was just like music, just music. Music, music, music. Greatest answer I've heard. Okay. Question number two, then. Okay. Do you have any like mental disorders or conditions that you'd like to share if you're comfortable with that?
Well, I mentioned before. I probably mentioned. Yeah, I think I mentioned this before. Um. Yeah. So I struggle with anxiety disorder, and I do have kind of some symptoms of OCD. So yeah.
Hey, that's reasonable because I have a little bit of ADD myself. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's another question on top of that question since you shared with the group.
Mm-hmm.
So, how does like anxiety, shape your everyday life versus someone that doesn't really have anxiety?
Well, that's a great question too, because I'll speak for myself, but I feel like I can relate to other people that has told me that I've seen has been through it too. But with anxiety, it's like everything. I don't know, everything you notice everything differently. Like, as far as when it comes to, and I talk about spiritual stuff sometimes too. So I'll
Mm-hmm.
say this, like, as far as energy. So, for some people that may not have an anxiety disorder, uh, if they're around people that kind of, like, I don't know, how do I say it? People that maybe they're frustrated or have a bad day or something like that, they could probably, like, handle it better. Like, it wouldn't affect them as much. But someone who has an anxiety disorder, if they're around someone who's like, I guess, who's angry, or like someone who's like super mad or stuff, you might start thinking, like, you might get a little, like, anxious, like, oh, is it my fault? Like, oh my god, I can't deal with this. I have my own issues. Like,
Oh,
what?
Mm.
like what's going to happen next? Like, how do I get out of this situation? And then it's like, it's like this kind of crazy loop of like, oh my God, what is going to happen? What if this, then this? And if you let it get too bad, you start to grow symptoms that makes it hard to control, and that leads to like anxiety attacks or panic attacks and stuff like that. But I guess a scenario could be like, okay, so say like you're traveling on a train or something, like public transportation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone with anxiety, and this happened to myself, but like if you're getting where there's a lot of like public, like you're in the public and stuff like that, you start thinking about like, man, when can I get off this train? All these people, oh my God, there's
Oh, I
people
know that
staring.
feeling all too well.
Yeah, it's like I want to, like I hope I have a good ride. I hope the ride is safe. I hope nothing bad happens on this train ride. And
Yeah.
then you're like constantly like, you know, you're trying to control it on the inside, because the worst thing for someone with anxiety, you really don't want to cause a scene and have a panic attack or like an anxiety attack in the middle of public transportation, right? Because you don't want to look crazy or something like that.
Of course.
But sometimes when your anxiety gets super bad, you have these subconscious like symptoms where sometimes you can't really consciously say, oh, I'm anxious right now, let me control and relax. Sometimes in your subconscious, the anxiety is just running, 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 running. And if you don't take the time to learn different ways to combat it, as far as like if you feel a certain way, take breathers or this and that. But I can speak for myself. When I wasn't educated on anxiety disorder, I would just, I would just freak out sometimes,
Yeah.
and I didn't know how to cope or what to do. So I just kind of let my subconscious kind of take over my body, just the symptoms, your chest starts feeling heavy. You get like these hot and cold flashes. Like, for example, I know a symptom is like your body could be regular temperature, but your feet get cold. You can,
Ooh, yeah.
your throat like your throat like what is it like when your throat gets like uh
I know exactly what you're talking
yeah,
about.
your throat tightens. So
Yeah.
it's like when your throat tightens, you feel like, oh my God, am I having like an asthma attack or something? Like I can't breathe or something? Like what's going on? Like, and you start thinking that you have other illnesses, but it's really anxiety and stuff like that. But yeah, it's definitely a battle. The best way I could put it is that you will have to know or be around people that have it to understand, because some people see anxiety, like when you say, oh, I have anxiety or I have an anxiety disorder, some people are like, oh, you just need to relax and like meditate and stuff. It's like, no, that's not quite how that
Yeah.
works. It's
It
like there's
doesn't
more
work.
to it.
Mm.
A lot of anxiety stems from traumatic things from your past, or being or you have situations in your life where you're having trouble adapting to the situation because it's mentally painful,
Mm.
and there's just different things with that. So yeah, I hope that answered the question.
Oh, no, that was actually one of the best answers I've heard to that question, because I mean that's how I am. I used to be very bad with public anxiety, but then I've like my entire life I actually had public anxiety. Like I didn't want to be around people in public because like grocery stores crowded,
Hmm.
even if it was just with a few people in a room. So I know it was like last year when I was going through my mental health journey, I learned how to cope with it. And like sometimes some of you guys might be able to relate to this. Sometimes it's like, okay, it's no biggie because I've learned how to cope with this. Sometimes I can go out in public, I won't feel fear. Then there's
Hmm.
other times where I'll get to the parking lot of a grocery store, but then I'm like, nope. And I'll get so anxious in the car, I'm like, nope. And I'll just turn around and drive home.
Right. Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
So, third question. Third question. Now, I can't personally answer this, but I know you can that you can probably answer this. So, As a woman, what struggles do women go through mentally that men might struggle to understand?
Ooh, that's a very great one. Wow. Where do I start? Well, I feel like this is kind of the debate that's been going on up until now, like, gender roles and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But from my perspective as a woman, I'll say, I mean, a lot of it has to do with sometimes there are like societal pressures, like, you know, for women, our like, I guess our asset is more so your looks and your beauty and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And it's like you could get judged for that easily compared
Mhm.
to, I don't know, I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I've seen it where like, I'll relate this back to like when I was in school and stuff like that. Like a lot of the girls and guys were very judgmental on, girls and how they look and stuff like that. But for the guys, like it was different for the guys. Like, of course, guys got made fun of, but a lot of times guys got made fun of them being like soft or not as confident or not having money and stuff like that. Um, but like guys could come out, like when it comes to like even special occasions and stuff, like when it comes to dressing up and stuff, like everyone is, looking to see how elegant, women look and stuff like that versus a guy. He could just come in with it, something business casual and he will still get by.
Yeah.
But I do feel like there are like some societal pressures in a way where it's like see, that's really a tough question because I'm trying to answer it to where maybe you understand where I'm coming from, but at the same time it's like the way like where I grew up and stuff is like I grew up in a more like urban background. So you
Mm.
did you did have like women that came from backgrounds where there wasn't a father in the house, so they kind of had to take like this more masculine role because they didn't have, maybe they didn't have brothers or, you
Yeah,
know,
I've
a,
studied about that actually.
yeah,
That
or
is interesting. That's interesting.
yeah, or they didn't have they didn't don't have a father with them, like, into their, even as an adult, into their 20s, 30s, and so on. So they kind of like have to take that masculine role because they're kind of on their own as a woman. They don't have anyone to really like protect them. And I'm not saying that women can't be confident and they can't defend themselves, but it's a little different. Like for example, Rogelio, right?
Hmm.
If if you have like if you had, for example, if you had like a sister or a wife or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Would you feel more comfortable with her like going out in the nighttime by herself, or do you feel more comfortable being by your sisters or your wife or girlfriend's side, walking at nighttime in the city or wherever with her?
Damn, that's a tough one. Cause I'd say it depends. It depends on the scenario and stuff. So I'd say so. In case one, like let's say my sister is out with her friends, okay, I wouldn't mind. But if she's out alone, even with my girlfriend, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I trust my girlfriend, that she's not gonna do anything stupid. But if we're talking about late at night, then yeah, I think that's very concerning. More so, not because I think she's gonna cheat on me or anything, but because that's
Mm-hmm.
someone I care about, and they're going out alone at night.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and so I would say, from my perspective, I would prefer to, because I always grew up where I always had a lot of like guy friends. So because I guess I get along better with like guys in general, but
yeah,
like if I if I was, if I had to go somewhere at night, I'd be like, oh man, well, like I don't feel as relaxed. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Um, because of the statistics out there, you know what I'm saying? Like, of course, anyone could be dangerous, but there's statistics.
Literally.
But at the same time, if I'm walking at night with a group of guy friends or something, I'm like, I feel a little more relaxed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of
Because
course.
so it's like, there is this stereotype that women are more emotional, and we're on the weaker side sometimes, and that can affect us when it comes to like employment, like different positions, um um being in certain positions where certain careers or certain hobbies you have are mostly dominated by males, and in a place where there's not so many females, you kind of like, you don't you want to be seen as like, okay, yes, I am a woman, but I can also do these things just as the other gender can.
Hmm.
But at the same time, it's like, you don't want to be treated like, I'll say for myself, like, from the perspective of going back to gaming, right? So a lot of times when I would game with other people, it would be mostly with guys because it was difficult to find other females that were gamers and stuff. So um sometimes I had to play the role of like, you know, sit back and kind of be in this kind of like imposter syndrome kind of situation because as guys can take things far. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you guys can joke about some of the craziest, wildest, most explicit things, and like to girls, or
That
like, I
is
mean,
true. As a guy, I can confirm that's
to
true.
to women, we're like, oh my god, like, why are they calling each other? Why are they talking like this? This is crazy. Like, but it's like, to you guys say the wildest things, and the next second it means nothing. But it's different for women.
Yeah.
So growing up in those gaming groups where I'm like the only female and stuff, it was hard for me to kind of like blend in because, like, well, they see me as one of the guys and stuff because it's mostly guys, so there's a lot of testosterone. But I don't want to feel like I'm necessarily one of the guys. I want to feel like I'm still a woman that likes to play games and stuff like that, and have a fun time while playing games. But conversations where it gets too far because like they say, guys will be guys, it gets difficult. So sometimes I don't get heard in the group because you know majority rules. So it's like, they
Oh, yeah.
guys are going to want to talk about what they want to talk about. Like, who am I to step in and say, guys, please don't talk so like vulgar or explicit like that, because it bothers me.
Yeah.
So even when I express myself about that, it's it's a little it's still a little difficult because now it's kind of like they're suppressing how they really want to feel, like the things they want to talk about and comment while playing games. And it's like, now I'm thinking like, man, that's not fair. Like, I don't want to take anything away from them being themselves. So it's kind of like battling two things. I really want to have a fun time playing video games with my friends, but at the same time, it's like, I can't be in those situations where they get out of hand because I don't feel comfortable contributing to that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, and then there's some women that don't have a problem with, guys talking that way, but I'm speaking for myself, and I'm just trying to say, like, guys say some wild things, but yeah.
Well, see what Arma's talking about, y'all. Funny enough, we were actually just studying this in psychology class the other day. But what she was saying there at the end, where she wants to be herself, but if she speaks up and says something, it's more so, like she's saying, kind of makes her feel suppressed. We actually call that most of the time in psychology negative reinforcement, or you could even call it negative punishment.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like in Arma's case, right? Arma wants to be herself. Well, like for example, Arma wants to be herself when she's with the guys, right? playing games, maybe playing some Fortnite. Arma expresses her behavior, so Arma expresses herself. All the guys gang up on her, and, ridicule her. Mentally, that's gonna make Arma feel like, it's gonna make her feel like crap, y'all. It's gonna make her feel bad about herself. And then her brain will slowly get conditioned to where Arma's brain will make her feel like I'm not allowed to be like myself, because if I act like myself, or I act like who I really am, all I'm gonna do is get ridiculed for who I am. And so, like, if that happens like multiple times, or like if it happens on a regular basis, slowly people can get conditioned to not be themselves anymore, and more so kind of like become what, kind of like, I guess you could say, conform to society in a way. So, like, for example, another example, we'll go off what Arma was saying. So if Arma plays video games, hypothetically, this is all hypothetical, Arma,
Mm-hmm.
and she plays video games with the guys every day, and she expresses herself to the guys every day, but every time she expresses who she is to the guys every day, all they do is, ridicule her and stuff. Slowly, Arma's brain is going to get conditioned to the fact that she can't be herself most of the time, or she can't be herself at all around the guys. And so slowly her brain will get conditioned to kind of like adapt to how the guys are. And so it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird, but I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
you're getting where I'm. Yeah.
But see, that's just one example, and
Yeah, just one
that
example.
was at that time, that was when I was much younger, but I mean, we were all like young and stuff like that, and yeah, and it's not to blame anyone, or try to make them seem less than, or make them seem like they're the monster or anything like that. It just is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Because the reality is, I do know also that there's always going to be double standards, because men and women are different, naturally,
Yeah.
biologically. So there's going to be things that men get the one up on, and there's some things that women get the one up on. For example, if we're to switch sides here, like, as a woman, I guess I feel like there's a little more leg room, and there's a little more comfortable spacing for me to be emotional and cry and stuff like that, because people be like, oh, she's crying, she's a woman and stuff like that. But I know it's a little different for you guys, like if you guys were to cry as often, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, that's true. That is true.
So I feel like, as a woman, I'd be like, well, if I still try to be as strong as I can, but like, if I cry, I don't have to worry too much as a man would about like being ridiculed for like, oh, you're weak, like you're so soft and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty damn great response, and pretty damn great response. Okay, so next question. So, do you believe family members can traumatize one another?
oh, of course. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't help who your family is. They're human beings, just like you are. And um yeah, I mean, a lot of times, like, myself, I've been judged, like, growing up, for different things I did or didn't do, compared to what other family members may have did at a certain point in their life and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I mean, people get in situations where they are going through abusive situations with family members, and different things like that, because just because they're family doesn't mean that they're family, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So it's like, it sucks, because the stereotypical idea of having a family is, we're unified, we stick together, we help uplift each other, because we are we are the branches of this big family tree, and it's like we're supposed to, work together and stuff.
Yeah,
But the reality is, life is not always fair. So you're gonna have you're gonna have your family members are really individuals that have traumas, are not perfect, been through different ups and downs in their life, and you don't have any control over how they decide to, you know, improve themselves or how they choose to raise themselves once they become adults. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
of course.
you can't you can't really do much, but mainly focus on yourself and just be around people who do treat you like that ideal image you have in your head of what family should be, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Mm. Right, right. All right. So next question. That hey, that is an actual good response. What Arma was saying about family, just because they're family doesn't mean they're family.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure most people, maybe not all, or maybe not most, but I know some of you guys listening, you guys have probably gone through that where maybe you've been through this situation where you've had maybe your mom, maybe your father, maybe your brother, maybe your sister, maybe whoever in your family. They treat you like crap and they make you feel like you're worthless, right? And then at the end of the day, when you do try to question their behaviors towards you, you say something like, yeah, you say something like, you question their behavior and you call them out on their behavior towards you, and they say something like, "Well, I'm your uncle or I'm your father. We're family." Blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
If you know, you know, guys. If you know, you know. But I'll just go to this next question, and I will give you a preface that this next question, I'd say probably this next question could be considered controversial. It's
Mm-hmm.
not one that I can answer personally. It's kind of like, you remember how I said, ask you the question, regarding you being a woman and stuff?
Yeah.
It's one of those questions. So, if you want to answer this, you can. If you don't want to answer this, you don't have to. But this is the question. Are you ready, Arma?
I'll try my best.
So, what issues do people of color in America, have that affects their mental health that non-people of color don't seem to understand?
Hmm. I mean that's a really tricky question because it really depends because in the world we live in today, it really depends how you were raised and what perspective of life you have.
Yeah,
And because honestly, the way I see it, all races are going through struggles and stuff, but if you want to speak more so for the African American community, I mean, there's a struggle, like I said, within every community, but the struggle within the African American community is, I mean, it could boil down to, maybe colorism a little bit, maybe, not having a head start as far as generational wealth,
yeah,
um, stereotypes and stuff from previous generations, that kind of held back certain communities. Um, you know, everything within the culture as far as like hairstyles and slang and the way, I don't know, different things within culture for African Americans.
hmm
And I think as you've done like hip hop music and so we both have something in common where we like the hip hop community. And a part of, I think the issue is not what certain things, not what the things are in our culture. I think it's how we use it and how we gratify it and how we like downplay certain things, if that makes sense. So for example, like I'll talk about like music in African American community of hip hop has been very influential, right?
yeah,
But it all started with talking about pains and struggles and realistic things, and then you know, that eventually evolved into like the culture of wanting to be flashy and, you know, devaluing people and going after materialistic things because society began to grow and become a more like more advanced with technology and capitalism and stuff like that. So it was all about being flashy, the you know, the limelight, the big lifestyle and all that. And now with the era that hip hop is in now, I feel like there are some like dark spots to it. And it's more of a like a competitive playground. And I feel like that the music with how hip hop has been over generations has affected people in our community, whether it has to deal with violence or you know, or drug use and different things like that.
Yeah.
And I do believe that it's like I said, it's not just, you know, because not every person from a certain community is that stereotypical idea you may picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes stereotypes are true because there is a certain group of people that do validate that stereotype, but that's not everyone. And I don't know, I just feel like we should in general, just whether it's the African American community or whatever, we should just be open to other cultures and understand it, because just because you don't understand our culture or whatever culture it is, doesn't mean you have to harshly judge it. That's why it's all about how do we move forward. How do we understand that even though we're different, how can we accept each other for like, okay, yeah, you have your culture, they have their culture. If we don't like something, we can't understand it. How do we come together to have a conversation about the why? Because the why is everything. Why did hip hop start? Because of pain and struggle from, low income communities where there sometimes were more African Americans there. And, that whole like generational pathway goes back down all the way to segregation and, slavery in those times. But yeah. And sometimes that's a hard question for me to answer because I focus so hard on what's the solution? How do we get past this? How do we like, move things along? You know what I'm saying? Cause we talk so much about the traumatic things that the African American community has went through. How can we improve? And I feel like there are young people out there in our community, in other communities as well, that are trying to, pass that border, and like, break the boundaries of those stereotypes.
Oh yeah, of course.
But yeah, I mean it's a great question, but it's really hard for me to answer a little bit because this world is much different. I feel like if you ask like someone from my family who's from an older generation, they might have a different perspective, of course. But for me, my mindset is always on like, how do we improve? How do we, make things more positive? Because at the end of the day, even in the African American community, with our culture, all the negative parts about it, we can improve it if we learn that if we become more spiritual and realize that what is affecting our energy, what are the negative things in our culture that is holding us back as a community, and what are the positive things that can help us grow. And everything is just really, if you boil everything down to it, everyone may be different communities are different, but how can we how can we come together and create this positive energy? And if it can't be positive, how can we create this neutral energy? And that starts from like having conversations, educating other people, bringing different opportunities to people from in low income neighborhoods or urban areas and different things like that, because you have a lot of negative influencers in urban communities, where sometimes in low income communities there's more African American people, where there's unhealthy food, negative distractions. How can we limit that and put more positive things, like things that will help people become more imaginative, helping people want to progress in life and not just sticking to the negative things that's holding them back, so.
Yeah. All right. That was a pretty damn good answer. So we'll go on to the next question. So the next question is, why do you think some people take mental health as a joke?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I don't think necessarily people would see mental health as a joke. In my opinion, I think just people don't see the impact that it has, or people don't value the ability to have knowledge of mental health issues. It's very important to gain knowledge on different mental health issues and stuff like that, because you could learn so much.
Yeah.
And it's like if people could take the time to understand, this person has this disorder, have a conversation with them, if they're open to it, to see what they're going through. Even if someone has like a family member or a friend that's struggling with something, instead of judging them or like seeing it as a burden, maybe take the time to do some research and see how you can maneuver around that, or how to help support them,
Mm-hmm.
And I think it just starts with educating yourself and researching. And the people that do see it as a joke, there's definitely nothing humorous, or there's no humor to it, because a lot of people are struggling through things today, and like hurt people. So if we could stop if you could stop that one person in your community from being hurt, so they don't have to hurt someone else or hurt themselves, then in my opinion, that's great progress, and that's a win for humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And so if people see it as a joke, is because maybe they're ignorant towards it, because they don't have much education or knowledge about it, or they don't see it as important because they haven't approached a scenario where they can see mental health having an impact on their lives or someone else's lives, if that makes sense.
Right. See, I know exactly what you're talking about, because it's like a few years back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've told this story to a lot of people. How my ex-fiance at the time, she kept telling me every time, she's like, you need to go, you need to go to therapy and all that stuff. And for me, I thought, therapy, mental health, I thought all of that stuff was a joke. I thought, I'm in good mental health shape. Just everyone else around me, is crazy and stuff. Because like, it's kind of like, with the way I was raised, and I didn't realize how I was raised was actually wrong, because I was so conditioned to it for all those years.
Yeah.
And then it's like, when I went through that mental health crisis and I started taking it seriously, I was like, okay, this stuff really isn't a joke. Maybe I can joke about about myself here and there, but like, what people are going through, it isn't something funny, because what they do will, affect them and will most likely affect others.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Education is powerful, and no one could take it away from you once you do learn stuff. So, the more you know, the more you know. Honestly.
Of course. So I'm gonna pause real quick, Arma. So I'm gonna have to do some post editing because,
Mm-hmm.
like, literally in the middle of us calling about 3 minutes ago, my little
Mm-hmm.
cousin just called me out of nowhere, and so it stopped the original recording. So I had to hang up on my little cousin, and
Mm-hmm.
then I had to restart another recording. But
Oh.
I'm pretty sure it saved that first recording because it shows that I think that saved the first recording. I'm
Mm-hmm.
hoping it saved the first recording.
Yeah.
If not, then hey, we'll work with what we got. We'll work with what we got.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess the last question before we get to the second part of the podcast would be this. So, what's the best piece of advice regarding mental health or regarding any situation from your life that you have for others?
The best piece of advice I have is to do your research and just get educated. If there's anything where you have this like mental itch in your head, like, I want to find out more about this, or like, I know this person in my classroom, or someone in my family that acts like this. I wonder if it could be this or that. Just right there, if anything piques your interest, just go out there. We're in the age of information where we have so much information at our fingertips. So, go out and, or actually wherever you are, do your research and, just learn more about it. And if you're more of a visual person, you don't like reading, there's always YouTube. So, and, and yeah, and if someone out there, if someone out there doesn't want to like really face the what ifs of mental health, like they're kind of nervous about dealing with something like that, or they may not feel interested, then what I would say is just keep living life, to be honest, because eventually there are going to be situations where your mental health is tested, or
Of course.
the universe has a way of putting you in a situation where something you may not know, you will know in some kind of way. So, I'm sure too, Rogelio. There's been times where you're like, oh, I'm not interested in that or whatever like that. Oh, I don't want to do that. I probably may not do that ever or something like that. And then something comes up where you're like, dang, it's actually here. I'm going through
Yeah.
this.
Oh man.
So yeah, so
Mm.
life has a way of like spanking you and be like, listen, you gonna learn today. So yeah, so yep.
I'm telling you guys that are listening, and this is where I was one of those people. I was like, this is never gonna happen to me, or I'm never gonna repeat this mistake again. You
Mm-hmm.
will. You see, this is what I tell people. I'm like, you're never going to know what 10 years from you now or 20 years from now you is going to think or do. Maybe you think in the future, or at least I'm hoping like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, I'm still a nice individual. But I'm not sure where my beliefs are going to be from 10 or 20 years from now. And it's like 19-year-old me, right? I can look
Mm-hmm.
back and reflect on 19-year-old me. And I know what 19-year-old me was thinking because I used to be 19. I used to be that person.
Mm-hmm.
And 19-year-old me, I remember a lot of the things he said he would never do. And here I am, 24 years old now, and I'm just like, man, I'm like 19-year-old me, you were wrong, man. You were wrong. We were wrong. I'm just like, so for all y'all listening, you'll go through something. You
Yes,
will.
but yep.
No, go on, go on.
Especially like the individuals who are, getting like the young adults who are getting into college, or their first jobs and or their first career job, whatever like that. where they may feel like, oh, I don't want to do any public speaking or interact with the public and stuff like that. I'm like, well, I know I've had friends or just friends or people that I know that were younger, like, oh, I am not doing no public speaking. I'm not interacting with anyone or stuff like that. I'm like, well, good luck, because you are going to have to interact with the public somehow, some way.
Oh yeah, I've learned that one the hard way. I've learned that stuff because I've never wanted to interact with the public, and then now it's like, okay, I don't mind interacting with the public, but like Arma's saying, some way you're gonna have to interact with the public.
Mm-hmm. And then by the time you do, like, if you have like a customer service job, anyone who can relate to that, by the time there gets a point in time, like, oh my god, I'm nervous to interact with the public, but then it comes a point where you got people that kind of get on your case, and you've done it over and over and over. You're like, when is it time to go home? When is lunch? Like,
Yeah.
you're like, I'm just doing my job. I'm trying to have some income and stuff. I can't even. You don't even have time to worry about being shy or nervous. Like, you, it's like you're on the grind. So yeah.
Literally. All right, so those are all the questions that I have for you, at least for this episode, or for now, unless I can think of any more questions off the top of my head. Well, I mean, okay, technically this is another question, but it's not part of the interview, all right?
Mm-hmm.
So, before we end this, is there, do you want to share a story or like anything that you've gone through in the last couple years of your life that has
Mm-hmm.
related to mental health in some way or another that you'd like to share? That's up to you.
I it's hard to think of one now. I mean, I'm sure there's like so many, but there's not really anything that I could piece together like a summary. But let me see. What I'll just say is I'll just give like some little like bullet points here. But so some things I've learned over the past few years is always be yourself.
Oh yeah.
Um, just always be yourself, because I've been through situations where I was the people pleaser, and I kind of like conformed to what someone else wanted to do just to keep peace. And there were situations where there's times where I was like, nah, I'm going to speak up and share how I really feel, because I like to be real.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people don't like when you're real, and they paint you as the monster, and they see you as being a drama queen or whatever, or drama king. And it's like, well, I gotta speak the truth, right? So just always stick to being who you are, because that will eliminate all the people that don't see your perspective or don't understand where you're coming from. The true people in life that really care about you want to see you at your realest form. They appreciate you for being real and who you are. So, I say another thing I've learned in the past few years is having patience. Having patience is, like they say, patience is a virtue, and it really is, because there were certain situations where I kind of like rushed things, and I wasn't really happy with the results afterwards,
Yeah.
because I just wanted to kind of get it over with. But I noticed the things that I took time to work on, even though it was a pain to stay focused, because this is 2024 and my attention span is like super low.
Oh my goodness.
Like, man, I be having like 10 plus tabs open on my computer. Like, I cannot, I don't know. I got to work on that. But anyways.
That's how I am too.
And so just, being patient is really important. From a content creator perspective, from a creator or artist perspective, I would say like you got to enjoy the I'm sure you heard this all the time, but you got to enjoy the progress more than the end result, because you can't have the end results you want if you don't enjoy the progress. You know, the progress is everything. You know, the progress are the chapters of a chapter book, and then you know as you're you know you're building, you're going through different chapters in your life. That's the progress, and then the end result is like finishing the story and all that, right? But it's it's all about just enjoying what you're doing, even if you're not top tier at what you're doing. Just enjoy the simple things. For
Yeah.
example, I with my educational channel, I don't even have 100 subscribers right now. Hopefully one day, but I started focusing more on look at all the different people I reached out to have conversations with, and for them to give me a hour to 2 hours, 2 hours of their time to express how they feel and take the time out of their day that they didn't have to waste on, waste their energy on having a conversation with me. Look at how much time they took, where I learned a lot from them and they shared a lot with me. And it's like I could go back and look at those or hear those conversations when I want to, and because they're really inspirational. And it's like I look at this is why I created my channel, not because of the subscribers that I have right now. It's the conversations and the quality of what was being talked about. So yeah,
Damn.
that's all I got right now.
Damn. Well, I do thank you for joining us, Arma, and everybody listening. Are there any last words or any closing comments that you'd like to share?
I like to say that, in the future, one day I'll hopefully be a positive influence in the world. And I want to try to, work with more people around the world. Hopefully, work more with you, Rogelio, in the future. And
Hey, likewise, likewise.
then people will understand one day why I call myself the artist. And that's all I have to say.
Nice. Well, I thank you for joining us, Arma, and I thank everybody that's been listening to the podcast or that is listening to the podcast, wherever you're from in the world, or whoever you are. So this is me, Rogelio Capone, TenTillDeath, and
Arma.
I like that. I like that.
I don't know why I said it that way, but like I totally like blinked out and I was like, "Oh snap, it's me."
Oh my goodness. Well, want to thank everybody for listening. So until next time, peace.
Bye.